Hello, good evening, everyone. Are we live? Yes, we're live, Naisha.
Yes, hello.
Hello, world. Hello, good evening, everyone. Oh, thanks for joining us so much. Hold on. Let me exit out here. Okay, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are here for our first Core Choreography Competition semi-finalist artist talk series. These next few weeks, we're going to be speaking with the semi-finalists of Core, which is a choreography commissioning competition that CHEN Project launched in 2016. And we asked these artists to share their thoughts and perspectives and experiences during this time. And the winner of Core, it will receive a commission to set a new work on CHEN Project Dancers for our next season, which we are aiming for fall 2021. Yay! So stay tuned for updates. My name is Jessica Chen, and I am Artistic Director of CHEN Project. I'm one of your hosts for this evening. My preferred pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am on stolen Lenape land, which is currently referred to as Hell's Kitchen, New York, Manhattan. With me here tonight is my co-host this evening, CHEN Project dancer and extraordinaire, Naisha. Go ahead, Naisha.
My name is Naisha. I am a J-Chen dancer. I my preferred pronouns are she, her, hers, and I also occupy Lenape land.
Yes, we're live, Naisha.
So just a dancer in the space joining this conversation. So excited to join Jessica tonight and get to talk to the rest of the finalists and our winner from last year, Michelle.
Hey, Naisha has been helping me navigate this whole world, and we're so excited to launch it tonight. We are tonight we have 3 artists, and we are going to bring Michelle on pretty quickly. Naisha, will you make some announcements before we go into that?
Yes, we would also like to highlight some really great things happening in our community. Black Dance Stories is hosted by Charmaine Warren. It happens every Thursday on YouTube Live. It features well-known dancers and choreographers, as well as shares their stories and conversations about being Black and the Black experience in the dance world. This week features Camille A. Brown and Jason Samuel Smith. So check that out, and we'll leave a link below. We are also featuring Asian American Arts Alliance, also known as A4. It's another organization we'd like to highlight this week. A4 is a nonprofit organization dedicated to ensuring the greater representation, equity, and opportunities for Asian American artists and cultural organizations through resource sharing, promotion, and community building. And we also have their website link below, so check that out for resources, events, fellowship, and more.
Awesome. And Naisha's going to go away for a little bit, but she'll be back at the end. For our audience, all of those out there tonight, please, if you can, comment your name in the chat box just so we know who's with us this evening. And also, we will have a Q&A towards the end of the show with the entire panel. So comment with any questions that you may have, and we'll collect them throughout the evening and share them with our guests either during their talks or towards the end during the time set for the Q&A. And then lastly, knock on wood, should there be any technical difficulties arise, we will do our best to troubleshoot. So we just ask for your patience as we navigate this digital world. And then without further ado, let's bring on our first guest. Tonight we have Michelle Thompson Ulrich, who was our 2019 core winning choreographer. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Jessica. Thank you so much. I first just want to say thank you to CHEN Project and thank you to Jessica for creating this platform and just helping to uplift all of us. My name is Michelle. My preferred pronouns are she, her. I currently live on the Upper West Side, which is also Lenape land. So Jessica and I are sort of neighbors. But I was originally born in San Francisco, born and raised in the Bay Area. I did most of my training at the San Francisco Ballet School. Right out of high school, I got my job with Ballet Austin in Austin, Texas. So I moved from the West Coast and then went to Austin, Texas. I danced there from 2001 to 2015, dancing a variety of works, anywhere from Balanchine, Twyla Tharp, Ulysses Dove, Stephen Mills, many New York choreographers that maybe our New York audiences know, Sidra Bell, Greg Dolbashian, Nellie Van Bommel, Tong Dao, and many, many more. I had such a rich and wonderful experience at Ballet Austin. I am forever grateful for that company, for everything that Stephen Mills has done for me as a dancer, as a person, and as a choreographer. I said goodbye to Austin, Texas in 2015. During my time there, I got married, I had 2 kids, I got a degree from St. Edward's University. Actually, I was about to have my first child walking across the stage, very, very pregnant. But Austin was so good to me. That city was so good to me. And I started choreographing in Austin, lots of site-specific types of projects in museums, in gardens, outdoors. The live music scene there is fantastic. So I had a lot of great relationships with composers and just had really a lot of fun starting my choreographic journey and finding my voice. And then I moved to New York, to the Upper West Side in 2015 and began freelancing. I still was doing some performing with different companies, Zayak Contemporary Ballet, and also Spark Movement Collective, which I'll come back to Spark Movement Collective in a moment. And I danced and I choreographed anywhere from choreographing for ballet companies. I did a lot of applications, applying for different things, working with companies all over the United States, ballet companies and modern companies, and also doing my own work here in New York, applying for festivals and presenting my work in that way, and then also just creating my own evenings of work and making that happen in the true New York hustle way. And then I also started teaching at SUNY Purchase, which is where I originally met Nellie Van Bommel, who's the director there at Ballet Austin. She created a piece for us and just kept that bond going. And then was offered a position to teach as an adjunct professor at SUNY Purchase. And I have just loved teaching there. Moving to the piece that I made for this competition, I actually used all Purchase dancers. I tend to do that just because I have an investment in the students already, and I've already developed a really strong relationship with them, and I like to help them get jobs and more jobs. Actually, one of the dancers that was in my work that I created for that ended up dancing for CHEN the following season. So I was like, yes, getting people work, getting people on stage is always exciting and a really nice bonus to making those connections. So coming to the competition, I was very excited to get involved with the competition. I had already met Jessica through another program she had called Translate, and I had done that 2 times at Dixon Place, and I just really loved Jessica. She's very engaged with her artists. She wants to get to know you. She wants to support you, and I loved that kind of mentorship and just that kind of relationship. And so when I saw that she was doing this new competition launch, I was like, I have to apply for this. I have to go for this. And I was excited when I got chosen just to be in the group of all of the super talented artists that were involved. One thing that I loved so much about the process is that Jessica came to my rehearsal. She came, she observed. We had a nice meeting afterwards. She asked me questions about the current work that I was making, and then also what I was dreaming up. If I were to win, what I would dream up for CHEN, for the company. And it's so fun because that conversation that we had that day ended up being the piece that I made. The piece was very much about rituals that we have, and the piece I made is called Woven Ritual. And so it was wonderful just that seed was planted in a dialogue that we had together, and then it came to life, months later with the company dancers. So that was very exciting. Getting in the studio with the company dancers, you've already seen Naisha, it was like so fun getting to know Naisha and Rafa, and I already knew Andy and Elizabeth and Aaron and Jesse. It was just super fun to be in there with them. Really hardworking group of dancers, but also just like really fun and really positive. And I felt so welcomed. I mean, from the first day, I think I was like hugging them and high-fiving them. And we already like started developing all these inside jokes. And it was a really fun group to work with. And I felt very comfortable sharing, the process with them and my concepts. And I worked with a composer actually for both pieces that I did for the competition and then for CHEN Project. Her name is Grace Villamil. She is an incredible visual artist and then like secretly also a composer. And hasn't made that many pieces for dance. I think I'm like the first 3 pieces she's ever made for dance. So that was fun to kind of walk that journey with her and develop sound that was tied to our joint vision, and then share that sound with the dancers. I mean, even when I first came in, I had a lot of sound samples and we didn't really have all of it strung together, but the dancers were like willing to try different things. I said, okay, let's make this work. Let's try it to this sound. Let's try it to this sound. And they were extremely flexible and like enjoyed the exploration of sound and how it would work best with the movement. And then having the piece shown at the Ailey Citigroup Theater was like, yes. I mean, that's a great theater, great space to show like lighting, and it just was very exciting to be there that evening to see my work along with Jessica's work and see it all come together. It was really a fantastic experience the whole way through. I felt very connected to the dancers and very connected and very supported by Jessica. And I don't know, Jessica or Naisha, are there any questions or other things? I could keep talking, but I know we've got 2 more excellent, amazing guests, so I don't want to go on too long.
Yeah. So Michelle, I remember when we were in the middle of rehearsals for your piece, and there was one of the times either we met before the rehearsal or after the rehearsal when you had just gotten the offer for Spark, and we talked about it, what
Yes.
it means to be an artistic director, and we talked about Spark and all the great things that they have going. And so there was just a lot of anticipation for 2020, and then the pandemic hit. So I would love to hear more about your transition into this role, taking the helm of this company that has been, it's 10 or 11 years, 10 years, and you transitioned in April, right?
Yes. Thank you. That's like on my list, and I mentioned that I was going to talk about it, but got so carried away. So it was after one of our rehearsals in September or October. This company that I had danced for, Spark Movement Collective, I was offered the position to be the artistic director. And I can remember talking with Jessica about like, okay, is this something I want to do? I'm like loving being a freelancer. I get to pick and choose, but this is a skill set and an area that I want to learn more about. And I want to see what does that really mean to be the artistic director of a dance company. And so I signed a 2-year contract in November that would start, my first day would be like April 1st of 2020. And I was like, yes, I got plans. I was like drafting out what I was going to do, what the season was going to be like, inviting guests, all these things. And then COVID-19, and I was sort of just like, okay, what does that mean? What are we going to do? How are we going to still create art and accessible dance for our audiences? And so I ultimately, like, we had the Actors Fund booked for November, and like they returned our deposit. I was like, a live show is not happening. Got it. Okay, now let's kind of like start and like brainstorm about what's possible. So we are having a virtual season that will be launched in November. But before that, in October, we're going to do a series of talks kind of like this, talking with different film artists that we're working with, different musicians and composers that we're working with, dancers. And we do have a few guest choreographers also creating short works on the program, just trying to like lift up as many voices and as many artists as possible in this virtual format. And so, yeah, it's exciting. You know, it was like a bummer. Obviously, everyone wants to be on stage, and the dancers who were, already part of the company, I just kept them on. I want to, keep them as part of the Spark family. And I said, we're not going to have a live show, but we're still going to be making art. And I think that they were ultimately really excited, just because, the news of so many companies having to cancel their seasons, it's heartbreaking. We've had so many cancellations, postponing, things not happening. So it's exciting. It definitely has some major challenges, in the sense of like the amount that you budget to make a film versus putting something on stage, getting all the dancers together safely. I mean, we still, like, there's some sections we're going to film where we have 8 dancers, but they won't see each other all together until the day of the filming. So it's like Zoom rehearsal, outdoor Brooklyn rehearsal, outdoor Riverside rehearsal, outdoor this, and like everything's in sneakers. We're going to be wearing masks, like, so it's not like the way you sort of like have like a feeling about what the film would be like. There's definitely some things that we have to, like, safety and rehearsal schedules are a little bit trickier, but I'm still really excited about what we've got going on. And so you should follow Spark Movement Collective on Instagram, on Facebook. sparkmovementcollective.org is our website, and there'll be like some more information, ticket things. We are having a little Arts on Site show that we're doing next Thursday, September 24th. You can find more info about that also on our Instagram and Facebook coming up. So that's exciting. I think that's mostly, taking on a new artistic director position in the middle of a pandemic was like a little bit like, and then I also have 2 children who it's like virtual online school, and how do you juggle all that? So it's been interesting, very interesting.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, I feel like we do talk quite often, but it's always like business and or gyrotonic. And it's just amazing that you perform, you dance, you teach yoga, you teach at Purchase, you're freelance choreographer, now you're artistic director of Spark, you're a mother of 2 and a wife. And I'd love to just hear a little bit, before you go, how do you manage to balance everything? Does it ever feel like too much? And during those times, how do you navigate the murky waters? Because you're always like, just give such big, like, powerful energy and sweet energy. And so,
Yeah, no, I definitely think like a strong, family, friend support, that has been hugely helpful for me, just to kind of like have people they have my back, and they believe in me, and that definitely propels me forward. I had this a few years ago. I worked with someone, and I sort of started to, like, we say this word balance so often, and that we sort of imagine a scale, and we sort of imagine, okay, this thing is happening and it's difficult, we sort of see things in 2 ways. And I started to use the word harmony, like when you're listening to a song and like there's all these like elements that are tying together, or like if you were listening to an orchestra, like there'd be one moment where the strings would be this, and then, percussion, and like, it's so layered. And so I think now when I think about my life, I don't necessarily think like, okay, I'm a dancer and then I'm a mom. Well, then do all the other roles fit in? Like, but what about the choreographer and the director and then the wife and then the friend? So I feel it a little bit more like an orchestra, or like trying to harmonize everything together. And so some days, like, being a mom is like I mean, it's always number one, really, truly, but like I just have to put everything else on the back burner. Like, I can't, like, I mean, there's definitely been times like during all this where I've like been in the bathroom, like sneaking in a Zoom call, and like they're out watching a movie, and I'm like, I got to do this call, like in secret, like in the bathtub, like it's like a little, it's like that kind of thing, but I think when I put too much weight, like it has to be like perfectly balanced. Like sometimes something I'm giving a lot of hours to it, and then I just have to say, you know what, I can't give all the hours to that other thing, which is hard, because we all want to do like the best at everything. That it's like if there's so many plates spinning, it's going to be hard, to find that harmony with everything. So that's been kind of helpful for me. And then just some days just going like, this is not going to happen. Or I respond to the email. I say, I totally got your email, but it's going to take me until like Thursday to really fully respond to it. And I'm sure people are going like, till Thursday? Like, how could it take her so long? But there's like so many other things that are like in the mix, So yeah, it's been more busy now with all of this, which is interesting, because I think some people have been less busy and sort of like, what do I do? But because my kids' schedule is the way that it is, and I don't know, I'm learning new things. Like you're saying, this new digital landscape, like there's skills and things like hosting Zoom webinars and like teaching on Zoom. There's this like whole layer of new knowledge. And so sometimes that takes additional time as well.
Kind of like a love and let go and trust that things will get done.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, amazing, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're gonna say goodbye to Michelle just for a little bit, but we'll have her back at the end. So if you have any questions for her, please comment that in your chat. And again, if you're joining us a little bit later than when we started, please comment your name so we know that you're there. We can say hello back to you. Now we have our second guest, Sandra Shi Parks. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, Jessica. It's so nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. So please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your work and yourself and
Sure. So my name is Sandra Shi Parks, and my preferred pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm currently having a bunch of different titles per se, but my title that I use the most is the founder and director of Women in Dance. It's a nonprofit organization that promotes female leadership in dance. But I also teach full-time at Drexel University as the program director of dance. And I currently occupy the Lenape, also known as Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So I am originally from Taipei, Taiwan, and the other day I was talking to Jessica about why I moved to the States. After high school, I literally just packed up my stuff, and then I decided to move to New York City. And I think it's with a lot of naiveness and a little too much courage, as my mom used to say. And after that, I thought I was going to be a professional dancer right away in New York City. And of course, that is not always the case. But I was really lucky and fortunate that I got into colleges, and I got my degree from NYU Tisch School of the Arts, and then started performing. And through my life in New York, and then later I moved to Boston, I just had really great opportunity and to work with a lot of mentors. While I was at Smith College for my graduate degree particularly, I really got to kind of dive in deeper and also start to really identify this idea of who I want to be. I think at the time, everyone, or at least I thought I knew who I was and who I wanted to be. as an artist, but then I really took about a year or so to kind of clearly see that through. And so for me, most of my work, creative work, started from this idea of cross cultures, simply because my culture is Chinese/Taiwanese, and then moved here to the States, and particularly on the East Coast in the city. And then what I went through as a young student and an artist, and then all that kind of intertwined to my work. And then if you might be interested in finding out like what is women in dance and how that idea came about, I moved around quite a bit once I started teaching full-time in different colleges. I started in Atlanta, and then I moved to Baton Rouge. I was the head of the dance program there at Louisiana State University, and I was so happy to meet so many great female leaders in dance and in theater. And I realized how much work we need to do to continue to promote this idea. And so I started a company called Women in Dance when I was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And this company and this organization started hosting conferences, started working with different artists. And it is so amazing to see how many female artists that also are part of this competition and this artist talk series that Jessica is hosting. And while doing all that work on the side, I was also teaching full-time in universities and working with the young artists. Like earlier what Michelle was saying, it is so interesting to see how they view their dance and how they view their art compared to how I was viewing my art when I was at their age, and then also how I am now. And it's really nice to talk to them about. Sometimes you really kind of need that little naiveness and a little too much courage, because of our world is changing so fast and so much, as everybody watching this also feels the same way, that a lot of times our plans don't go the way we wanted, and so we really need to find a way to be flexible and adaptable and just keep on going. And sometimes that little extra courage will push us a little bit forward, and be able to pivot that a little bit faster. I'm also, in terms of for my own work, I'm very interested in collaborating with different artists, and it's really just I don't know how it happened. It just, maybe because most of the time I will just, if someone asks me, do you want to do a project? Like, yes. I usually say okay first, and then I figure out the rest and I go back and say yes. So I've been really had a great time collaborating with many artists from disciplines like interior design, graphic design, and digital arts, and of course music, theater. And most recently I've been working with a lot of artists from digital artists and or the virtual reality or immersive arts that kind of really drive me towards the direction that I was proposing for CHEN Project, is to do something along the line with that. And of course, we'll see how that goes. And we will even play with these ideas with my current students as well, and see how that goes. And with this virtual world, I think for me, it's obviously a lot of extra work, just like what Michelle was saying, but at the same time, I think it's amazing for me to experience different ways of working, like how do you teach a class remotely? How do you create remotely, and how do you build that connection via screen? But for me, it has been really exciting. Of course, there are times that you just want to pull your hair out, but I believe that as artists, that's what we do. We're creative, and I think also as women, of course, I'm biased. As women, we can balance a lot of different things at the same time and finding the harmony, like what Michelle was saying. So I encourage all artists and anyone out there watching today, just find that little excitement moment, find that little naiveness in your heart, and that little extra courage. You can just go for it. And I do want to share a little bit of self-care tip, I think, because there are times it's really just overwhelming, but I feel like there is always that time that you need for yourself, right? Whether it is you taking a book, go outside to read when you are not looking at the computer screen, or is it for you simply just go out and then look up the sky and do absolutely nothing for 10 minutes. I think those are beautiful times that we all need during this interesting life that we have right now. And I think that's probably all I've had prepared for you to share about myself. But if Jessica has more that she wants to know, I'm sure I'll be ready to answer them.
Yeah, Sandra, so I remember when we were talking and you said that you moved to New York when you were 18 years old. And I'm wondering, besides the self-care tip that you just gave, looking back on all the experiences that you have now, is there any advice that you would give to your 18-year-old self with like all the knowledge and experience that you've had?
I would say probably do a little more research about what you are stepping into, right? I think that's one thing I didn't have, and because back at that time, we didn't have any you didn't have a phone, or you didn't have like a research tools that you can find all this information, right? Back in the days, it's dance magazines and actual magazines, right? But still, I didn't read enough of them, right? We just kind of know this is the place and let's all go. But if I were capable of, going back in time and tell the 18-year-old myself, like, do a little bit more research, so then you might be able to get to where you want to be a little bit sooner. But I have no regret of what I had to kind of going left and right, but then eventually, like I think I'm still walking towards where I want to be, right? I'm not arriving there yet. If I'm already there, I don't think I will be here talking to you guys today. I don't think I will ever be arrival at the place. I think I will always be moving towards whatever direction I want to be. But a little research, that will be helpful.
That's great. And then you did mention and spoke a bit about women in dance, but I would love to hear more about the way that it is presenting itself now, and how it's shifted through the yeast. When did you start Women in Dance?
So the organization started in late 2013, and we host biannual conferences, and so we started in 2015, and then so on and so forth. So in some way, luckily, we held our last one in 2019, and our next one is not scheduled until the fall of 2021. But still, we don't know what is going to happen in next year. So a couple of things that we're thinking about is we already present work that is in film. We already present work that's usually on the stage, live performance, right? Now, if that particular live performance in the theater cannot happen, we are definitely brainstorming of site-specific work. And the conference, another unique part about the conference is that it doesn't stay in a city. So the first one was in Baton Rouge. The second one was in New York City. The last one was in Philadelphia. And we're actually going to move the conference to Chicago in the fall of 2021. So we have been in contact with the local community in Chicago, and then kind of identifying certain locations that might be meaningful to the dance community in Chicago. So then the choreographers can submit proposals and present work there as well. And I think, right now we're still continuing planning, right? So just have multiple plans, and And then once we know a little bit more details, we'll be able to start to shift and pivot if we need to. But I think one thing very important for the conference is to present different forms of dances and present different voices of artists. And so we're really lucky that we'll be able to present flamenco again. We'll be able to present hopefully some hip hop, and then hopefully some tap that is sometimes not always included in a so-called more regular festivals. And but still, we are going to open the submissions to any female choreographer, as long as you identify yourself as female choreographer, who wanted to submit work to the conference. That we always welcome any genre of dances, that we welcome everybody to submit work.
From your personal perspective of all the work that you've done and then the years that you've had in the industry, have you felt the landscape? How have you felt the landscape change and shift for women in dance in our industry?
I think it definitely, the awareness is much more evident now than, let's say, when I was younger as a performer. I actually, it's nothing to do with has nothing to do with like how the program was being structured, but I was thinking back, like most of the guest artists that I worked with when I was in school were often male choreographers, right? And but now you see there are more, even earlier when Michelle was mentioning the names, like there are more and more female choreographers, like freelance choreographers, who get to create bigger work and commission work. But still, I think that is the awareness is now more evident. But then if you look at the actual numbers and the actual research, back in 2015, this is obviously 5 years ago, there's about 80 companies that have like a yearly budget over $1 million. And even with that 80 some companies, only 30% of the artistic directors are female, right? And then you look at a research published by a company called Dance Data Project in Chicago. In 2017, female artistic director and executive director's salary is only about 79 cents to a dollar of their counterpart, right? So when you look deeper into the actual, research, like we still got a long way to go, but we can't do anything until we have the awareness, right? So I'm glad that the hashtag Me Too movement, and then we are now have this awareness about these female and gender equality in dance field. So I'm just trying to contribute a little bit of my passion to this, and hopefully we will be able to see this keep moving forward.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sandra.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you in a little bit.
For sure.
Okay, thank you everyone. For those that are joining now, this is our core choreography competition semi-finalist artist talks. We've just heard from Michelle and the incredible Sandra, and now we're going to bring on our third guest this evening, Kirati Junapawipa. Oh no, I just messed it up. I've been practicing all week. Junapawipa.
Yeah, you got it.
So Kirati, thanks for joining us. So please share a bit about your background with us and how you got into dance and choreography and all that fun stuff.
Sure.
I'll go away, but I'll be back, okay?
Okay, that's awesome. So my name is Kirati Jinakunwipat. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am currently in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, which is occupied Canarsie, Lenape land as well. Okay, so I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois. I grew up dancing there at Dance Center Evanston and Evanston Dance Ensemble. Shortly after, I did my undergrad at SUNY Purchase and graduated in 2016. And sorry, making sure you can hear me. Then shortly after I graduated, I started working with Kyle Abraham. AIM by Kyle Abraham is our new branding name. So yeah, I started as an apprentice for about 2 years or so. And at this time as well, I was doing just freelance choreography around. I would say I got really interested in choreography my senior year of college. Doug Verone was my comp teacher, and I found him really inspiring, just the tools and games that he gave us. Just made me realize how much information I already had inside of me. So I really valued that. So I applied, did a bunch of dance festivals, Battery Dance, American Dance Guild, things like that. Did a few commissions, one for Evanston Dance Ensemble, SUNY Purchase College, of course, which was really cool, it being my alma mater. Martha Graham Dance School, so those kids were really cool to work with. And then most recently for AIM. So yeah.
Share a bit about your journey with Kyle Abraham and AIM, like how you got into the company, your years of apprenticing, and just like, this incredible journey from when you were introduced to the company and they were introduced to you till where you are now.
Yeah, totally. If I had to start with a point, it might be in 2015, actually, my senior year of college. I saw their Jazz Matter program at the Joyce, and I was completely inspired by like the subject matters they were speaking on, the way they moved, all the dancers, everything. And shortly after, they were looking for apprentices, so I came into the room and just slowly stayed for a while. So I was very grateful for that. A lot of people that I looked up to in the room. So and yeah, it's apprentice, but also like swing type thing. So there are definitely a lot of situations where I'm like, I always have to be ready to go in.
Did you go on tour with them while you were apprentice?
Yes, here or there, depending on the rep. Drive was the first piece. If any of you had seen it, it premiered at City Center in 2017. So I had my own role in that, and meditation as well, which was at the Joyce. So doing those and then just kind of understudying everything. They took me on tour with them to Paris in 2018. And my friend or another dancer in AIM actually got sick, Marcella, and I actually had to jump into an evening length piece. So like just like this hour of material, which is pretty crazy. So
what was that like? Were you ready? Like, did you have rehearsal? How much rehearsal time did you have before you had to jump on? Were you nervous?
I was very nervous because also we just did that piece recently at NYU Skirball. I did a different role, but even just hearing music like gives me anxiety sometimes. But yeah, they had lots of rehearsal before, and I would just always be on the side learning many different parts. So yeah, just kind of have to go for it. So yeah.
Do you feel like understudying or swinging all of those roles like fed into your choreography, like seeing so many different roles from within, kind of enhancing any part of your choreography process?
Wow. I think that's a really great question. And I would say definitely, kind of switching out and seeing the weight of different roles and individuals and how they all balance each other out and what they bring. Yeah, I love that question. Thank you.
And how did you get the commission to create on AIM and your fellow dancers?
Yeah, okay, this is pretty crazy. So I'll start back in 2017. Kyle I was presenting, I think it was actually one of my senior project pieces that had like developed over time. I was doing Dance Gallery Festival and Kyle would come to it. He's always supportive or wanting to support and stuff. yeah, and after he was just like, loved it, was so great, like, oh my gosh, like I wish I had asked you to like, you know, be a part of the Joyce Commission for 2018. And I was just kind of like, wow, that's really cool. Like kind of didn't really believe him until like a year from then, after we were on tour in Akron. And we were just talking in the lobby, and he had brought it up that that's what he wanted, was to bring me in for the 2019 season that just passed. And I just kind of like cried and was very overwhelmed. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about that. But yeah, very grateful for him giving me that opportunity and believing and supporting me always. So yeah.
And that work premiered at the Joyce, right? That was at the Joyce. What
Yeah.
was it like, your first premiere, your first choreographic premiere at the Joyce? Walk us through the evening from tech to curtain.
Let's see, tech, I feel like there were still small things being changed or edited even in like tech dress rehearsal. Yeah, but I feel like that didn't really give me too much anxiety. I would say I felt it most opening night. It's a different type of anxiety. I'm sure you all know, as like choreographers, directors, it's like mom anxiety, you know, like when like something you care about is like going on stage, but it's not you. But I completely trusted all my dancers. Like, you know, I wasn't worried about what it was. It was more just like waiting for it to happen. I remember kind of pacing around outside the Joyce. And it's interesting what Sandra said about self-care, because like taking a walk outside by myself always tries to help me like calm down and stuff. So yeah, it was just crazy. I remember watching my piece from like the back of the Joyce, kind of the standing room, which is really cool for the kind of piece that I made. It was very sports themed, and it felt like made it seem more stadium like. So it was cool to just kind of sneak in, but then also like running backstage to like get ready for Trisha Brown solos and stuff. So yeah, so just balancing all of that.
So on the opening night of your piece, you also performed at the Joyce. You performed in pieces as well?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so it would my piece opened, and then it was Show Pony, which was a solo, and then solo Olis Trisha Brown, and then intermission, and then Kyle solo, and then like a group piece at the end. And solo Olis was double casted, so I didn't have to do it every night, but it would be a little tight running back from the solo, because I did want to watch it in the house every night. Rather than the wings, I just like to see them from far. But yeah, it felt fine. I just told myself I was warm, so yeah.
Tell us a bit about the piece that you premiered, because I didn't get to see it, unfortunately, but I have looked a bit about it, and you're inspired by professional athletes, and which is such a cool thing to bring on stage, you know, on the bodies of dance athletes. So just tell us about the piece.
Yeah, so I think what we do is so impactful and powerful as dancers, but the world doesn't really necessarily see us like professional famous athletes, and I kind of wanted to bring attention to dance and what we do in that way. I don't know, kind of in a fun, rowdy stadium way, or like in an encouraging way. And yeah, I'm always inspired by athletes and like how they move, even just watching basketball or football, seeing the way their bodies move, because it's all just movement, you know, and we're all athletes. And yeah, I enjoy doing a lot of research for it, like looking at sports documentaries and I don't know, the kind of like emotional journey that we all go through, that we go through as artists and dancers as well. So thinking about that, and like team spirit and camaraderie and all those kind of ideas, which I strongly feel at AIM, they're my family. So I just wanted everyone to see them as like these superheroes that I feel they are. So yeah.
Oh, I love that. They are superheroes. Were you a big sports fan growing up? or still are?
Um,
Because you're from Chicago.
Yeah, so I definitely, if anyone out there has watched like The Last Dance, like I love all that stuff, like growing up in Chicago, and like I was born in 94, so kind of being raised around like Michael Jordan times and stuff. But also, like I don't really know how basketball works. I just like to watch it for movement. So like that's what I took from it. But growing up, I loved Space Jam, so there's a lot of that influence kind of in the piece as well. And like my friend Zach, who composed and did the music for it, well, he mostly like arranged it. We used some of like the Bulls theme song and stuff. So there's a lot of things slipped in there from my like Chicago childhood memories, I guess.
And now, you know, you're still a dancer at AIM, and you're also, you know, taking have several things lined up for you as a choreographer as well. How do you kind of see balancing, you know, finding that harmony, like Michelle was talking about, between dance and choreography, and what do you find interesting in both sides?
I would say in doing both at the same time, knowing what it feels like to be on both sides. Yeah, because even in my rehearsal, I feel like I'd be more sympathetic because I'm like, you guys have had a long day, like you're tired, or like maybe I'm not making this clear to you, or like in how I translate. But with AIM, it was a little different because everyone knows usually what I mean, even if I'm not being clear about it, but also working on that because I still have to direct and like hold the space in the room. Yeah, and also a little I can't say it. Just like being in one space at a time and just focusing on that and what's being asked of me or what I need to bring. So just like one thing at a time. And I feel like quarantine has really helped me try and focus on that because it's really easy for me to be at 6 places at once. So
I know that you said self-care was very important to you when we spoke before, and so I'd love for if you could share with our audience like a self-care tip that you embrace that really helps you during this time, and then, you know, all other times as well. Yeah. Before we bring our other guests back.
Sure. Mine was actually very similar to what Sandra was saying earlier, but definitely a lot of alone time, especially as dancers, artists, people. We have crazy busy lives, and just coming back to us. Yeah. Whether it's going for a walk or reading a book, baking something. Yeah. Making sure that you're keeping some focus on you.
Thank you, Kirati. We are going to bring our other guests back. Nisha, Michelle, Sandra, yay. Are we okay? So I'm gonna hand it off to Nisha for a little bit to ask any questions that she's collecting throughout this evening we've had, and we'll ask our panelists to speak more. Go ahead, Nisha.
Right. Hello. So I just wanted to throw this in. If anybody has any questions, please put them through the YouTube chat. I have a couple.
Nisha, you're breaking up a little.
Can you hear me now? It's a little bit better.
How are we doing?
Oh, there we go.
AirPods. I was like, oh, let me put the AirPods in. They're going to hear me so much better. Okay. Well, now that those technical difficulties are out of the way. So I just wanted to put a shout out to anybody in the YouTube chat. If you'd like to ask any questions, I will be facilitating this part of the evening. We do have a couple, one for Michelle. Elizabeth says, congrats on all your achievements. I know you kind of touched on this a little bit with the harmonizing of the orchestra of your life. How do you manage and balance dual roles in life as a mother and a dancer? And I know you said you kind of facilitate it as an orchestra, you harmonize all the different aspects of your life. Can you just go into that a little bit more for Elizabeth?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Elizabeth. I'd say, it was something that Sandra said that I loved is that I'm never gonna like arrive at like the perfect version of myself or like what like I'm always on that road of figuring it out. So some days are there, they don't go smoothly at all. And then there's some days that are just like gold and I'm like, this is amazing. So I think it's a constant learning and it's a constant journey. What I have found and like the dialogue I had with myself, like, dancing while pregnant and then having a baby and like that journey to come back, what kind of mom do I want to be? Do I want to go back to dancing? Like it takes so much work to get your body like, back into a performing state. And what I ultimately found is that when I was doing what I loved, I felt like I was a stronger mom. And so there are some sacrifices. I'm not, with them every single moment. I am investing in myself and investing in my art and my work, but I feel like I can show up a little brighter, a little stronger when I'm doing that. And I found at the times, like when I first moved to New York, I wasn't sure if I was going to continue performing. I wasn't taking as many classes because we were just trying to like figure out home. I really wanted to be there for my kids during this transition. My younger one was like still a baby. It was like so much. And then I was getting very depressed and very sad. And then I was like, oh yeah, I'm not dancing every day. Like that's a problem. Like that's part of my self-care and like part of like what like is like a meditation for me. So I think it's hard to fit it all in, but I think when I'm creating and when I'm dancing and moving, I feel stronger for them. And like it's kind of funny, they've gotten kind of involved. Like sometimes they get involved with like designing costumes. Actually, the costumes that I made for CHEN Project, I dyed all the tops and like my 6-year-old and my 9-year-old at the time, they were 5 and 8, they helped me dye, like it was like ice dyeing, like they helped me dye those tops, like they got involved. And then sometimes I'll have them like and they're like, oh, I think you should do this differently. Or I've definitely done the exercise of like just copying everything they do and like just like using that, and then like that's the phrase. I'm like, okay, let's go, that's awesome. So they definitely inspire me. And they're really good, especially my older son. He's like, Mom, you're getting stressed out. Let's do some deep breathing. We pull out like crystals and essential oils, and like we just like, he's like, calm down. So they keep me like, because otherwise I just keep working and they're like, Mom, let's build some Legos. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, let's. And I take them outside, like, and that's so like, just like, I love what Sandra said, like just like looking at trees, and you're like, oh, okay, everything's okay now. Like there's these beautiful trees all around and we live close to Riverside Park. So going outside is like huge, like for just like mental and physical well-being.
Nice.
I just want to jump in because your oldest, Michelle, I remember training you in our gyrotonic sessions and you brought him. Was it your oldest or your youngest?
My oldest son. Yeah, I had to bring him to the appointment because he had a snow day at his school. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm bringing him into the gyrotonic studio. And I was like, you just sit here. He had a book. He loves reading. But like he was so interested in how the gyrotonics machines work and like the gears, and he like walked over and he was like getting involved, and I was like, just back away. But yeah, he was very curious about the mechanisms. He loves to build things, and they both do. So yeah, that was they like to get involved for sure.
He kept saying, because we were in the middle of a session and you kept having to interrupt it to go like gather him back into the couch, and he just kept saying like, I'm just curious, like I'm just curious, like as almost a form of apology, or a description of what he's doing. He was like looking at the machines and he's just like, I'm so curious. Curiosity is just such a beautiful thing. So yeah. Bravo to you.
Yes. I love how you said you like put their movements that they do, like you play little games with them and you put that in your choreography, because it's just like children are so smart, you know, they just have all of it in their bodies and they're not afraid. And I kind of feel like you touched upon that a little bit, Kirati, when you were talking about one of the choreographers that you worked with said that you have it all inside of you. That's actually a question that I have for you. Can you go a little more in depth about that idea? I feel like that's like super strong and something very profound to put into your choreography. Like, you know, you took all these classes, but what they made you realize is that you have it all inside of you already, right? Can you go in a little bit deeper about that?
Yeah, sure. I was actually talking to Jessica about this the other day too, but I feel like it's a little relevant. Because I feel like as dancers, we growing up and training, we're just like dance, 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 and we have all these other interests and things that dance isn't our only identifier, you know. And I think it's important to take the time to follow those other interests and see how they inform us in different ways. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to turn that off. Yeah, and just following all our curiosities and things like that and seeing what's really there, because there's so many different pathways inside us and we just get to decide which one we want to take.
Nice. So it's just like there's not only one. All of your interests affect you and your choreography as a dancer.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, and the people that you like meet day to day and like all that stuff that like translates into your choreography. Is that what you're trying to get at? Yeah.
yeah, and just like if I'm interested in, I don't know, like cooking this one specific dish, like maybe I get obsessed with it and maybe it finds its way into my like piece somehow. Or I find the most inspiration also traveling, like being on the train and just seeing things go by, like it'll just initiate something inside me. So yeah, just keeping my eyes open, you know, because everything's there. So
Nice. I love that. All right. And then we kind of have a question for all of you. It was from Rika. She said she would love to hear everyone's best tip for younger dancers slash choreographers just starting out. Thank you. So we can go like one at a time, just share like a little blurb. We can start with Sandra since you haven't talked already.
Sure. A little tip for young, I think both young dancer and choreographer. A little tip is be that extra courage, you know, bring that extra courage with you, because you're gonna hear no and no and no. And guess what? After 20 times, it's still no, right? You're just gonna wait for that, the first yes, and then you will, I'm sure you will all pour your wholehearted in everything you will, you know, that you can offer to either creating or performing. And then from that forward, there you'll be able to hear more yeses. But you know, actually my daughter is also in the performance business. She's 12. We were trying to teach her a lesson when we took her to an audition for a national tour of a Broadway musical. I was hoping they're going to say no. So she will actually feel like, okay, now I go back and work harder, right? But she was lucky. We were lucky that she got the position and she was, you know, she joined a national tour. But anyway, now she knows, because now she's like taking lessons and taking ballet classes and then dance classes and, you know, practicing, trying to just polish her craft, and hopefully we'll hear the yes again. But it will be perfectly fine if you don't hear that yes again. Right? For my daughter, I'm like, it's okay. You're perfectly fine to be an engineer. But for a dancer or a young choreographer, you already made your mind wanting to become one. Then yeah, have that extra courage and knowing that a lot of people are behind you, supporting you.
Nice, thank you. And I also wanted to throw, just before someone else goes, that Rika also said that she loved hearing you say that sometimes a little, being a little more naive is needed to bring out courage and bravery. So I'm glad that you touched upon that again, because I feel like that's such an important thing that you said, that you mentioned earlier. And Liz also said, thank you for all your research, time, and energy in creating awareness about the imbalances of dance in a female rep. like female repertoire. So just want to throw out those comments for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Michelle or Kirati, some tips?
I can go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love what Sandra said. I think you have to just keep going because there's going to be so many no's. I can remember when I first moved to New York, I was like doing a lot of applying, a lot of things, and there were tons of no's happening. And I actually contacted Annabelle Lopez Ochoa, who worked with Ballet Austin, and she's really fantastic and has, you know, mentored me a little bit, you know, just over Facebook Messenger. But I reached out to her and I just said, do you have any advice for me? You know, I wasn't like shy because I'd known her and she'd worked with Ballet Austin. You know, I'm in this like grind, I'm trying. And she put it so well. She's like, people see me now and they like see that I'm, you know, doing all this work. She's like, but no one saw me 20 years ago when I was like getting all the no's. And I just like, to hear someone who like we think is like, she's famous. Annabelle is famous. She gets to work with so many companies and she works hard and her work is beautiful and she's talented and she's passionate. But she's got all of those no's behind her. And just to hear someone of that level of achievement say that, I was like, oh yeah, okay. You know, kind of like what Sandra was saying, like there's going to be a lot of no's and sometimes my work won't fit with someone else's preference, like but there's plenty of art out there and we have to keep trying, you know, whether it's for a dancing position or a choreographing position, we have to keep putting ourselves out there. And then the other thing that I really tried to do when I moved to New York was, I call it planting seeds. I just reach out and contact people, I plant that seed. It's most likely going to be a no, but I like literally planted all these seeds and then some of them blossomed like 4 years later and even later than that. It's just like creating these little dialogue moments, planting the seed, making the contact, going to a show, talking with someone afterwards, like, I'm very interested in your work, or, you know, I love this festival, you know, and just like planting a bunch of seeds and seeing, and you never know how they're going to come up. I mean, even my job at Purchase was very much like that. I knew Nellie, we had a great relationship. I said, I'm moving to New York. You know, if you have any dancing, teaching, choreography, any jobs, let me know. And at the time she was like, I don't have anything for you. And then it was about like 9 months later, she reached out. She's like, I have this point class and you'll be perfect for it. And I was like, yes. And then like that became so much more. Now I teach way more than point class, and I've choreographed for you know, Purchase, and I've done, you know, senior solos, and like that one little connection point then, you know, became so much more. So I think it's important to plant those seeds and bring them nourishment and continue to make those contacts and authentic, you know, contact and engagement, and then, you know, it blossoms and it transforms. So I think keep doing that, keep planting the seeds and keep going.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love the planting of the seeds. I definitely plant a lot of seeds. But again, like you said, I want to stress like authentic seeds, like not just like, oh yeah, like, you know, brown nosing, but you just want to, if you're really interested in something and really interested in their work going forward and, you know, saying that and giving somebody their appreciation, they appreciate that. And yeah, it just creates like this huge network of people. And, you know, I love that you said in 4 years, this thing might blossom. That's a long time to think about. Yeah. Wow. That's awesome.
And the nose, I think there was an artist, not a dance artist, but I think an artist that I was reading about several years back, and she wrote that she counts the amount of no's that she gets. Like she is trying to get as many no's and rejections as she can. So like if 1 year she's gotten like 100 rejections, she's like, awesome. Because out of 100 rejections, there's probably a percentage of number that they're going to be yeses. So I think that way, that flipped everything for me. It was like, oh, wow. Instead of feeling bad for the rejections, celebrating them and be like, yeah, let's do more. Let's send more out and let's get as many rejection as we can, because that just means you're putting yourself out there.
Right. It's like a whole new perspective that you're like turning off the complaining, whining, what do you call it? The self-critic in your mind, and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna do it this way and keep going. Yeah. Kirati.
Hi. Cool. Yeah. Kind of off what Michelle said, what came to mind to me was Rena Butler, actually, because she's like a choreographer dancer that I look up to, and she had posted a rejection on her story, which I thought was so cool. Just sharing that with like, like, oh, not this time, but next time, and sharing that part about her process too is encouraging and inspiring. But my advice to younger dancers would be to take those no's and know that they're leading you to your own path of authenticity, because I feel like that's what the goal should be. And I feel like we're sold so much on what success is, or that like a job right out of college, and that's just not usually reality. But like all those things that we attach with success, and I feel like instead of that being the goal should just be stepping more into ourselves, and I feel like that's what's important.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, stepping more into yourself. That I hear these things and I'm saying them back to myself like, wow. Like just thinking about them as a dancer myself, This is really, yeah, it's really great. Thanks for all your answers. We have one last question from Kayla. She says, what are some, oh, sorry, it's all the way back up in the chat. Okay. What are some, if any, obstacles you've personally had to face that directly affected you as a dancer? Super deep. Yeah, take a little sec. And we'll just go back to you, Kirati.
Sorry, I had the YouTube pulled up in the background, so it started talking at the same time, and it just stressed me out. I would say for me, being an apprentice swing with the company, and not knowing if that's where I was going to end up, but working towards something. And yeah, I feel like it was like a hardship, but more like a much needed process in time, like working my way up and like to keep pushing for it. So yeah, and seeing what I really wanted or I might not have wanted. So yeah.
Okay, Michelle.
Sure. I think probably this is something I share with my students. Is when I was 9, I was training at the San Francisco Ballet School. I auditioned and I got in, and I can remember. I think it was like my first or second conference. The person I had at the time just literally like put it flat. Like I was there with my mom and I was right there, and she said, "You're never going to be a dancer with your body, with your feet, just like done." And I think I just, at 9 years old, I just took that information and I was like, you just wait and see, lady. You just wait and see. And, I think it's important for students to hear that, because, we, especially in the, we become very body focused, long legs, hyperextension, pointed feet, all these, these things. And, maybe, my body is muscular, I'm petite, I'm athletic. Like I found a company that fit me, but I also worked my tail off to shape my body, to work my feet, to strengthen, to lengthen, to do all those things that I needed. And maybe that was the information I needed to hear. Like, it's never going to happen for you. And maybe that was part of but I was already very fiery and very passionate. I was like, oh, just wait and see. And so I think it's important to be realistic, but also to not let anyone say, you can't do this. And to really put everything, if it's what you want, to really put everything you have into it. And yeah, I didn't get a job at San Francisco Ballet. Like I didn't get a job there, even though like as a young child, that was like my dream. But I got a job with Ballet Austin, which is an awesome company. And I was so happy and got to do such a mixture of rep, not just like ballet and contemporary, but like modern rep. And so it was just that was like a thing that could have put me down, but I think it then propelled me to go up. So
Nice. Thanks, Michelle and Sandra.
As a dancer, what has happened? I mean, that feels so long ago. I think I wouldn't say it put me down. I think I put myself in that situation. You know, I moved from Taiwan at age of 18, you know, to New York, not knowing anybody, and thinking that I'm just going to audition. And then, yeah, I mean, there's many layers of information that I should have in my pocket, but I did not have. So I didn't understand why people wouldn't hire me. And then I was like, oh, because you are illegal. Well, not illegal, but you're like immigrant, or you're alien. You know, they use the word alien. You don't have the working visa. You don't have this. You don't have this. You don't have this. So, but then, yeah, like kind of what Michelle says. I mean, I didn't have someone tell me that you shouldn't dance, but in some way they're saying you're not allowed to dance here, right? You're not welcomed here. So again, I just tried to figure it out. Okay, so if I want to stay, what do I need to do? Then so I realized, okay, so you need to go to college. You get a degree in dance, then maybe you will have 1 year of a temporary working visa. And so I did that. And then, you know, it's always like kind of figure things out. And then when I wanted to teach in college level, like people were saying, no, you can't because you don't have the degree. And then so I have to figure out, what do I need? So then just you get a no, you get an answer that you're not hoping for, then you try to figure out how to get what you really desire, right? And I think that's ultimately our nature. Like, we're artists, we want to figure it out. And use that as a, like what Michelle's saying, like use something to propel you to go even further to where you want to end up.
Yeah, honestly, thank you, ladies, for this Q&A. Do we have any other questions that you want to ask? Anyone on the chat? No? Gonna give it a sec. We can turn it over to Jessica for now, if another one pops up.
Well, I feel like we've covered such a wide array of things tonight. So thank you again, ladies, and our audience out there in the virtual world. We miss you, and air hugs to everyone. I just want to say before we go to follow these amazing women. We've included them in the chat as well as the info in the description of this episode. This episode will stay on our YouTube channel, and follow them and see what they do next. I know they have all very exciting things coming up. And next week, we are going to have 3 new artists who are all 3 semi-finalists of our choreography competition. We have Francisco Graciano, Lynn Mullen, and Andrew Harper. So come back and join us. It will be at 6 p.m. next Tuesday, September 22nd. And lastly, if you are able to donate to the arts, we have included information on these artists. Again, follow them and support them. And information to join CHEN Project's annual fund is also in our description, so you can find out more info about that. And with that said, thank you everyone again, and good night, and we'll see everyone soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
So nice to meet you all. Thank you so much.
Yes, lovely to meet you.